I want to share something this morning from the Bible. It's the verse from 2 Corinthians 4, verse 4. And it says, "The God of this age has blinded the minds of the unbelieving, so that they cannot see the light of the gospel that displays the glory of Christ, who is the image of God." Most people have a certain idea when they hear this scripture, and they think of this God as some elusive entity that's out in the world or hovering in the second heaven somewhere above this earth, above this existence. Most Christians probably would term it Satan. The God of this age, most Christians call him Satan. But I want to present an angle of that is different, that came by revelation of my own life experience and my own spirit consciousness. Now, I'm sure Jesus taught on this, but everything that he taught was lost in translation, because everything he taught was filtered through this thing right here, the mind, and distorted the message. And that brings me to my message today. This thing right here between our ears is the God of this age. It's the ego. And why is it the God of this age? Because the ego only exists in physicality, in this age of human density. And it is the faculty which blinds us to the light of the good news that would display the glory of Christ, which is the image or reflection of God. It is my ego, it is your ego that is blinding us to the realization that we are Christ. If we could see that we are Christ, if we could capture this good news, then we can become the image or reflection of God. A person cannot become the image of God if they don't believe that they are that, if they don't believe they are the Christ. You can only reflect that which is in you. So when we, let me use the Christian terminology, when we think of ourselves as a separated branch from God, as a sinner, we can only reflect the image of a sinner. We can only be that, reflect that with which we identify. So what is blinding you to the good news of the gospel that would display the glory of Christ through you? What is blinding you? It's your ego. And I'm not saying that to shame anybody. We have all been the passive players here that inherited the rules of this game. And the rules of this game was that we would forget everything. We would forget our origin. We would forget our true essence, our true being, our true spirit. And we would identify with everything that we experience in our five sensory being. The five senses are the lower senses of the ego. They are from below, they're not from above. And because we only were aware of our five sensory existence, of our five sensory beingness, we constructed a self-image based on those five senses. What we can see, what we can smell, what we can taste, what we can hear, and what we can touch. We're blind to the spiritual reality of who we are. We identify as the tangible, material, human vehicle that we inhabit, that we ride in. And that's why we are blind to the glory of Christ, which is the image and reflection of God. We're blinded to that because we don't believe we are that. By the way, in the scripture where they said, where it says that they cannot see the light of the gospel that displays the glory of Christ, and they put who is the image, that is an inaccurate rendering. The Greek word there is hos, which can mean who, which, what, and that. But they chose who because they exclusively applied the word Christ to the person of Jesus. But it's incorrect. If Jesus is the image of God, then you and I can never be that. And all our being is in vain. Even our believing is in vain. But it's the glory of Christ is what is that which is the image or reflection of God. And we all need to come into realizing the glory of Christ that we are. There can never be glory about us if we do not think of ourselves as Christ. It's not a second-hand moon reflection. You actually are the sun. And this topic of ego is so deep. If I go there, I'm going to alienate the entire world because I'm surrounded not only by my own ego, but by the ego God in everyone else. This is an egoic construct, this world. And heaven cannot come to earth as long as we identify and believe that our ego is our true being. And today I feel a bit discouraged because, like I say, I bump my head into ego at every turn, and I am just so tired of it. So tired. So tired of the illusion. And everybody believes they are in the truth. Even your belief in God, your belief in truth, your relationship with God, your relationship with Jesus is all ego. It's all ego's game because you're using God and Jesus as a means of safety, as a means of defense, of guarding yourself from being hurt. Um, you're using it, you have weaponized God. Your ego has weaponized God and used it as a defense, as a shield, because your wounds do not allow you to play nice. You need to heal your wounds. You need to become seeing. You need to get around the blindness that you have fallen prey to, so that you can see that you're Christ, so that you know in that identity you can then heal your wounds, and then you can become an open-hearted being that no longer needs all of these beliefs as a coping mechanism to protect yourself, to defend yourself, to guard yourself against all these imaginative threats that ego perceives. So yeah, the God of this age is ego, and everyone, 99.98% of humanity is neck deep in ego, with all their aspirations, with all their religion, with all their faith, with all their spirituality. Until you see that, you're just playing a different ego game, or one of the 50,000 shades of ego that essentially creates this simulation. And I've had enough of it. I've had enough of it. That's why I have to be my own friend, because you can't be friends with egos. So, in a sense, I have given up on everyone else, and I'm trying to release the shackles of my own ego as much as I can, and try and enjoy the acceptance and the love for my own higher being, for the Christ that I am, and ascend out of this zoo, ascend out of this zoo of egos. And I think subconsciously a lot of you feel that. You just are not quite sure where it's coming from. You just are not quite sure where to put the finger on. Like so, put the finger on it. That's where it is. The God of this age. This one here. This one here. And it is a true gift if you get to see it. It is a true gift and grace if you get to see it. You have to look within. You have to look you have to look in the mirror. Don't look outside. and try and find the God of this age out there somewhere. Yes, he's out there in 8 billion other people, bodies. He's everywhere. But most of all, he's in your own head. So, anyways, that's my message for this morning. Sorry it's so long. Take care.